Welcome to Seekers and Shifters, where we talk to the world's foremost experts in personal growth and development and ask them everything we really want to know. Hey, it's Michelle, and on today's episode, I have our favorite recurring guest, Brook Bishop. We just talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about, but it's always a good time. He name drops people like Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor because he's a big deal. So, we give each other some shit. And we talk about all the weird shit we're into, but I think you'll like the episode. So check it out. And I am back with Brook Bishop, our favorite repeat guest on the podcast. So Brook, what's up? What's on your mind today?
I don't know, but I don't know what intro like that. I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Why are you
repeat guest. I don't know.
I said you're our favorite.
I know, but maybe you're being sarcastic. It's like, when you call somebody tiny.
I'm not an asshole. I mean, I am, but not in this way.
I'm sensitive on this Monday. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's
showing up sensitive. That makes for a great, great podcast. Well, you've been busy since we talked last, so you've been launching all sorts of new shit. I feel like I see you and your team over there. What are you working on these days?
Oh, so many things. We've got live events that are coming up. We've got our podcast, which we've been hustling. I think we just hit like our 33rd episode. So that's cranking. We've got all kinds of new services that are happening. We've got stuff happening in Europe, which is really interesting. So yeah, it's been busy. In
a whirlwind. I'm a little offended that I have not been invited to be on your podcast, and this is now your third appearance.
Oh, see, since Sensitive Mondays, I see. This is why I had to pre-frame with it, so I don't get the guilt trip. Oh, we do need to get you on our podcast, 100%. Actually, I'm messaging Ryan. We're gonna get you on.
Just inviting yourself, because that's what I do best. Okay, let's talk about the shit that you have gotten me into that I'm gonna go do this week, which is Vibravision, and you are wearing the hoodie. So can you show for the YouTube crowd?
Can you see that?
It's got like what is that? Like a fucking eagle on the back of it?
It's a dove. So their logo is actually a dove that's blindfolded. Mm-hmm. For anyone who has no clue what Vibravision is, and I'm going to give you a crash course on what this comes from. Have you heard of Mrpati Puti?
No.
You're like, what the hell did Brook just say? Okay, so Merpati Puti is it's actually an Indonesian martial art. 1,200 years in the past, the royal family of Indonesia, they sent out humans around the globe to go find the different modalities and healing modalities and different practices that were happening all across the planet. Now, the fascinating piece with this, they had enough money to be able to do this, but this carried on for generations. So they've got like 1,200 years of basically going around the globe to the Himalayas to figure out what the monks are doing, and going around Europe and figuring out what the heck they were doing, and all over the place. And those systems and processes were perfected and worked upon. And they kept it only in the royal family until about, I think 50 to 60 years ago, did they actually start letting it out to, there was massive amounts of war that was happening in Indonesia and a lot of civil war. And so they used Mrpati Puti, this royal practice, as a way of unifying their own people. Well, fast forward in time into the early 2000s, there was two brothers that actually got to go from Utah. They went and trained with the royal family, and they were taught the ways of Mrpati Puti. So to simplify this, think there's the way of the warrior, and then there's also the way of the wizard. So the warrior is like the combatant, military, inflict pain type of a thing. The way of the wizard is this whole other side, and that's healing. That's intuitive properties. That's for blind people to be able to see energy. When there's crazy, like the volcano, when they had the volcano eruptions a couple years back, and people got trapped on that island, the Mrpati Puti would come in, and through being able to see where people were buried under all this rubble, they could find people leveraging these skill sets. And so that's what you're going through to Vibravision, is kind of like the American word for Mrpati Puti, but you're going to go learn, how do you get into a space where you can actually see energy, or how can you go find people? How can you navigate obstacle courses completely blindfolded and not touch anything in that space?
And of course, as soon as Brook told me about this, I was like, I gotta go. And in fact, I told Brad, my partner, for those of you listening, and he was like, we're going, so we're going, we're going to go learn to see without our eyes. This is seemingly some very culty shit. They're going to have us wearing a uniform. I love a good cult. And the leader, Moss Mike, there are videos of him online, like breaking steel beams with his hand and breaking steel beams with his finger. And, I was just going to be happy learning how to see without my eyes, but like, am I going to learn how to break through steel? Like how deep does this go?
So level 1, from my understanding, is level 1 does not teach you the metal breaking, but it's the foundation pieces that lead to that. So I think it's level 2 or level 3 is when you start to break bars. It's crazy when you see him take like 3 metal bars and he takes one finger and it's just like, bleep.
Have you been to level 2 or level 3? Do you know how to break bars?
I have not done level 2 or 3. They actually just invited me to come to level 2, I think in April this coming year. So I'm pretty certain I'll be there for that.
Okay, so we're doing that together is what you're saying. Like we're going to go, you wanted us to go through level 1 so that we would be ready to go through level 2.
If you're going, if you're going to be there, then I need somebody to give me shit. So I guess I might have to be there. But what I'll tell you,
it's coming together in real time.
Level 1, girl. Okay, so I don't know how much if I want to let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, don't like spoil it.
I won't spoil it.
Just get us excited about it. In fact, hey, we're giving them super free publicity right now, so you're welcome, y'all.
This is true. You should definitely have Moss Mike on here. You'd love him. He's a character.
Come on.
Yeah. Once you meet him there, he'll want to jump on. So I'll put it this way: by the end of level 1, I was able to walk through an entire obstacle course with like balloons and piping and like all these different things. And it was probably a good 50-yard distance, completely blindfolded, like no assistance, nobody like telling me where to go or what to do. Literally, music was blasting so that your auditory functions are gone. Your visual functions are gone. And I would say there was probably 80 to 100 different obstacles down that whole lane. And I was able to go through the whole thing without touching anything.
Amazing.
Yeah, super cool. I'm
super excited for this. Now, let me ask you this, because they sent us a bunch of breathing exercises that you're supposed to learn how to do beforehand. And, Brad, by the way, for those of you listening, Brad and Brooke have like a whole bromance going on. Like there's a subplot.
Totally just got outed.
They love each other. But Brad, being the nerd he is, he has learned all the exercises. He's been practicing them for months, and he does them every single day after his cold plunge. And this is the kind of asshole I am, is I'm like, I'll pick it up. Like, I'll them a couple times, they're not hard. Like, I'll pick it up. Like, how much trouble am I going to be in if I have not practiced these for the last 6 months religiously?
I didn't pay attention when I got sent everything. And I only practiced the first thing that was sent, thinking that was the only thing I was supposed to practice. I didn't click on that like next button. So I was very much like you are going in. So from that standpoint, you're fine. What I will say, and this is what myself and the person I was practicing with at the retreat or experience, whatever the hell you want to call it, we made the commitment out of the gates to just cut loose and not worry about being judged, not worry about fucking it up, not worry about like, so here's where it gets tricky. The more you go into criticism, the harder it is to pick it up. So if you go into this internal dialogue of like beating yourself up, you're literally like turning off that part of your higher capacities, because judgment doesn't function very well when we go into that higher tier of frequency. So that curiosity and play is where you will move rapidly. So even though Brad might have the muscle and the breath work pieces going, if you can move more swiftly into just being a playful kid, it'll help you get in that space where you're not. So think of it this way. When you're second guessing yourself, that's where we stop our capacities. And this is also true in life, right? Like this is like, coaching 101. If we get in that space of should I, shouldn't I, now we're in purgatory. Now we're in analysis and we're not moving. So yeah, you should be fine. I'm not worried about you.
I'm totally better at like shifting into being a playful kid than Brad is. And like, thank you for making it a competition for me, because that speaks to my soul. I'm an Aries. I can get into it. What you're saying is so important for like every aspect of life, for work, for entrepreneurship, for all of these things, right? When we start to judge ourselves, we get too far into that place and it just kind of shuts us down. And I think we forget the importance of a play at work. So give credit to Mo Poole, who used to work for me and is brilliant. And she used to always come to the meetings and say, like, how can we bring more play into this? And so when we were planning retreats for our clients and things like that, it's like, how do we make it fun? How do we bring a sense of play to this? And how do we bring a sense of play to our work? She and I would always be dancing at the retreats and, probably annoying everybody else. But it was so important for us to be in that space of expansion. And I think not everybody understands what you're doing when you're over there kind of dancing in the corner, keeping yourself, fun and light. But that's what it's about, right? It's about keeping ourselves in this expanded spot so that the magic can come in, right? So that the creativity can come in.
And if it's not for play, then why the hell are we here? Like the constructs of society and life and where it's gone, it's turned everything into this serious, just survive world. But if we don't play, so here's another angle on it. And this kind of goes into how we raise our kids from an education standpoint, which you and I have talked about a little bit over time. But you take a kid who's forced to learn something versus a kid that's passionate and they love that thing and they want to learn that thing. Which one of them is going to retain at a higher level, right? Which one's going to pursue mastery? And that's where it becomes really fun. So anytime there's information, if we can find clever ways to get passionate about it, the retention goes through the freaking roof. It's when we're in a forced environment, and this is where you see a lot of work culture pieces. When employees are forced to do specific activities, they don't usually do a very good job. Sometimes they'll get the job done because they're in fear of losing their actual position. But if they're passionate about it, holy crap, they're going to go beyond and they're going to think outside the box and they're going to do 10 times better. The same thing's true in relationships. If you have playful, fun relationships and like intimate relationships, we think outside the box. We have fun. When times get tough, we can find ways to navigate through it. It's when it's serious or when it's competitive in the sense of I'm better than you are, but more from a superiority perspective, doesn't usually bode well in an intimate relationship. So yeah, no, it's definitely cross-contextual.
Tell us about your sex life, Brooke. Let's get into it.
So let me tell you about yesterday.
Let me tell you about the play that I get so much of. I want to talk about the kid thing because you and I have talked about educating our kids. You unschool your kids, right? Or what do you call it? Do you call it unschooling?
We call it passionate parenting.
Oh, okay. I cannot wait to hear about this because I will tell you, to me, having my kids out of school and having to figure out what to do with them all day sounds like my worst nightmare. I love that they go to school. Like, take my kid, please.
Help.
Love you. Want to see you for dinner and all that. But like, I need to get my shit done during the, like, how are you? You're very successful. Your wife is very successful. How are y'all doing what you're doing and having kids at home? And how does this work?
Yeah. So full transparency, if she had a full-time job, it would be very, very tough. Like it just would. We know people that play that way and they can navigate managing their kids in that capacity, but it would be a way bigger undertaking. So very, very blessed that my wife doesn't have to work a traditional job. So for us, the way we look at it is it's more about being available for the things that they're passionate and that they're immersing in. So like, actually it's super cool. So did you see my little announcement on Facebook that I dropped last week about Duolingo?
Oh, I did actually. Yeah. The badge that your kid got for being on there for a year straight.
That one was actually me. That was my badge.
Oh, that was your badge. So, I thought you were, okay. Sorry.
But no. But this is the cool piece of it. It's technically both and. So my son, Bodhi, he was super into anime and he was getting really pissed that he couldn't understand what they were saying because it was predominantly in Japanese. And now we're going to go way back to when I want to say he was 5 or 6 years old. So he got super into anime, didn't know how to speak Japanese, and didn't know how to read yet, right? So he was 5. Well, he taught himself how to read. And because he was into anime, the freaking subtitles move fast. And so he had to pick up reading really, really quick. So he taught himself how to read English through anime. Well, fast forward in time, still loved anime, loved the gaming components, loved all those pieces. We started putting breadcrumbs and pieces in front of him to make it more interesting. So we started learning about the history of Japanese art, and we started learning about animation. We started learning about gaming. We started learning about all these pieces that he was into. Well, he found Duolingo on his own, and he brought it to us, and he's like, hey, I'm going to start doing Duolingo. And it was gamified. And he asked if we wanted to participate with him. So my daughter, she started picking up Spanish. And so I dove into Spanish as well. My wife dove into learning Hawaiian because she grew up in Hawaii. So all of us started to learn, and every day we were all doing languages, but in a gamified way and holding each other accountable. Fast forward a year later, we never skipped a day, any of us, because we all played in that zone of Duolingo. But technically it's education, but it's through an app and it's through
very sneaky. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone's passionate about it. So everyone's actually like retaining the knowledge that they're learning too. It's not just like, I'm going to learn Japanese and pass this test to satiate my teacher and yada, yada. So,
well, at any point, did you all talk about all learning the same obscure language so you could talk and no one else would know what you were saying?
It was more of which one are you wanting to do? And let's do that one. It was more about the activity and what people wanted to participate in. And it's cool because like my wife will teach different words. And so here's where we now take it to another level. We've jumped back into playing Boggle and Scrabble. I don't know if you've gotten into either of those.
Oh, very much. Yeah. Very competitively.
I'll cut a bitch.
What's the other one? Bananagrams were you?
I haven't done bananagrams.
It's the same thing. It's like there's a bunch of word tiles and you shake them out of a banana and you scramble them up and then it's like timed and there's banana things that you call out. Yeah.
My daughter had us have you played Tapple?
No.
Ooh, okay. So this is like, you have a theme and then you have like letters around this deal where the timer goes off. And like, if you use the first letter, I don't know, doing a terrible explanation. It's basically like random times, and it's like speed plus words plus themes. So now we're getting into that, and then we're playing languages in and all kinds of other stuff. But yeah. Now, so here's the kick on the passionate parenting piece. If when they're no longer passionate in that zone and they pivot to something else, it's not forcing them to stay in that lane. So like if Bodhi was like, hey, I'm not into Japanese anymore. We're not sitting there going, nope, you've already put in a year, 2 years, 6 years into Japanese. Like you're staying here. It's whatever he pivots into, we pivot with. So this way the love for learning is always there. It's not about forced repetition and the superior dynamic.
Unlike my parents forcing me to play basketball for 4 years in elementary school, even though I never made a basket.
And how much do you hate basketball now?
I don't hate it. But I don't love like participating in a team sport.
My dad forced me to play baseball, and it was one of those things I had so much resistance to it. Like I won't even watch baseball now. It's like, I could care less.
Yeah. Were you good?
No, I wasn't. And I think I wasn't good because I had so much resistance to it. Like I had no desire to practice. I had noticed like there was nothing in between that made me want to think about it. Now, martial arts. So here's the interesting one. When my parents divorced, my dad's leverage point was he's told me when your mom and I are breaking up, I will not be paying for you to go to martial arts anymore. That was part of don't know why it came up and why it was important for a little 5-year-old. But my double backflip to him was as soon as I can afford martial arts on my own, I'm going to do it on my own. And I cut the time in half to get my black belt. And then I went and competed. And then I went and learned all kinds of other arts and I like crushed it. So that I'll show you energy was, now here's the kick. I immersed into martial arts film and I got into like culture and learning about the history. Like I hated history in school, but man, did I love martial arts history. So who knew?
I did not know you were a black belt, and now I'm even more afraid of you than I already was. He can see without his eyes. He's a black belt.
I actually have two black belts, and I train in 4 different arts.
And you and I we're only internet friends. Like we've never met in real life, but I have the impression that you're very tall.
I'm 6'2", so I'm not like crazy tall.
I'm 5'3", so like when you see me, don't be like, I thought you were going to be taller because that's what everybody does. And I would say, I just have a big personality. But I'm down here, so to you,
so here's the kick. So I'm 6'2", but I was done growing when I was 12. So that was kind of the freakish thing.
Huge 12-year-old.
I was like, I shot up and then I stopped.
Yeah.
So
there's like one in every 6th grade class. It's just like,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of growing pains. It was fun. Not really.
I should double back and say for the listeners, how old are your children? So when we're talking about this unschooling, that they've got that for reference.
So here's the cool piece. So we actually have I have a 32-year-old stepson, and then my son Bodhi. So my 32-year-old his name's Noah. We went the traditional route of schooling and like full normal path with him. My son Bodhi is 14, and then my daughter is 11. So those two are both in that like passion schooling, passion parenting, unschooling realm of things.
And your younger two, they've been unschooled this whole time, or did you have them in school for a while and then take them out?
Bodhi went to more of like a Montessori preschool for 2 years when he was like 4 and 5. And then, we actually went on the road and traveled for the next almost 3 years after that, which made it really easy to like go into that style because we were everywhere and learning and traveling so much and meeting new people and there was such a new, vast experience of things. It made it as a good starting point or foundation for it, I guess. So
totally. And you have to stay married to make that work, by the way, guys. I don't know. I'm just thinking about mom. I'm like, I don't know that it would be pretty hard to make unschooling work if you were sharing.
You could do it. You could do it.
We both have to be really on board with it.
You definitely, yes, I will say that much. So here's the tricky piece. You have to be available when they need your help. And that's the hardest part of it. It's like, hey, when they have an interest in something, you can't be like, hey, let's get to that at 8:00 tonight. It's like when they're interested in the moment, you have to be willing to sit down, whatever the hell you're doing. And like that's the trickiest piece of the approach. But yeah.
That's the part that would make me not a great parent. I'd be like, what?
Go find your dad. He's the available one.
Right now. I can't deal with your Japanese right now. I'm talking to my internet friend about random shit. It's really important what we do.
What about mom's needs? Damn it.
Mom's needs to podcast. What else should we talk about today, Brooke? What else has been on your mind?
I want to know about for Vibravision stuff, just since that's so like.
We're just giving them the whole free.
Well, no,
they should let us know for free if we talk about them for a whole hour.
That's so true. Yeah, we should leverage that.
Let's fucking do it. Yeah, go.
What are you excited about with the going there, and what are you afraid of?
I am always excited to get new superpowers. Always love adding tools to the toolkit and just learning different modalities. And like, you can't take anything for granted, including your sight. So it's like, why not learn how to see without your eyes? I love learning about energy, and you know this about me, and exploring woo stuff and exploring energetically, which is why you brought it up as something I might like to do. Because as soon as we started talking, you were like, I just did this fucking thing. You should do this thing.
And I go, where? When? I'm going.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, when I'm going. Brad's like, when I'm going. That's one of the things that brought us together is we're both the kind of people that are like, it's a cult, I'm in, Scrap the t-shirt. We'll learn some wizard shit. Path of the Wizard. So I'm excited for all that. I also love going to this kind of shit because you just meet the coolest people, right? So my secondary agenda is always like, oh, I'm going to meet more cool people for the podcast.
Yeah, and you will. You absolutely will.
I've started to get people asking this. This podcast does not have a huge following, but it has a small but dedicated following. And we love y'all. If you're one of our people that listens to this every single week, love you so much. We know there's like a dozen of you out there. So people ask me, how do you know all these cool people? Like, how do you, keep finding these people that are on this show? And I'm just like, yeah, because I go to weird shit and I meet weird people. And then I ask them to be on my podcast. And that's like 40% of my life, right, is doing that. So
that's a good way of holding yourself to the next level and standard. It's like, okay, well, if I have to be seen for it front and center, I'll probably put you into the room with some cool, wild and fascinating and sometimes crazy people.
Yeah. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. I was just recording with my friend Gio, and we were talking about how important it is for entrepreneurs to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I know your Uncle Mark likes to talk lots about being comfortable. By the way, his episode, huge hit. So we finally got him on, and people love Uncle Mark. I'm going to start calling him Uncle Mark, by the way, too. I'm just going to be like,
you totally can.
You're my uncle now, too. Sorry.
I have a book outlined, and it's titled literally Uncle Mark. So
God, I can't wait for this book. It's amazing. But he's the first person that I remember telling me, comfort is the enemy of your greatness. You got to practice being uncomfortable. And this is, 7-8 years ago, I started doing things very deliberately to make myself uncomfortable. And so we talk about like the cold plunge, but, and I was just talking on the episode about, I jumped off a cliff in Hawaii and I started going to dance classes. And so this is something like that, right? It's like, this is a foreign environment. I am going with my partner, which makes it a little bit easier. But other than that, I don't know anybody. We're going to be wearing weird uniforms. We're going to be doing weird shit. I'm going to have a blindfold on around strangers. It's uncomfortable. And so I wouldn't say I'm scared about that, but there's that good anxiety, like, ooh, I'm challenging myself. This is going to be challenging. I think that the most intimidating part for me is that they have culty hours in the training. So it's like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., right? Like every day for 5 days straight, all weekends. I am of an age where going to something for 12 hours straight for 5 days straight all weekend intimidates me because the timing of this training, and when we're recording this podcast, we are leaving tomorrow, Tuesday, flying to Utah, which is an all-day travel for us because we live in Washington, D.C. We will be having a dinner with our good friend out there because, of course, we can't go to Utah. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, training 12 hours a day, and then fly back all day Monday. And then my whole fucking family gets here for Thanksgiving on Tuesday. Why do I do these things to myself?
You try to see what your limit is. That's why.
Oh, we haven't found it yet, but I've bumped up against it a couple times.
You'll be into it. The cool part, what I'll say is the cool part of your learnings through it, it's all about cultivating, generating energy. So that part will be rad. Like, you're not going to be without energy. So you got that on your side. But yeah, no, to your point of like getting out of your comfort zone, there's so much unknown and there's new people. And the fun part is it's all unknown new people for them too. So it's kind of like, okay, we're on this bus going on this journey and we're all looking around going, hey, it's my first day at school too. See how we just tied those loops together there? I don't know if you caught that.
It's beautiful. This is one of my best sales tricks, by the way, too, because people always want to know what the trick, what are the tricks? Teach me the tricks for sales. But when I'm training entrepreneurs, especially on sales, especially when it's, I'm going to go to this event or this conference where I don't know anybody, I put myself in the identity of the hostess. And I think this is my party. This is my event. And then I look around just like I would, if I had people over to my house and I look around and I find somebody who's looking, uncomfortable or anxious. And I go over to them and I say, oh, you don't know anybody here either? Like, hell,
What are you most afraid of? Let's be scared together.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I invent a game for us to play or something,
Misery loves company, but so does fear, and so does happiness, and so does opportunity and all those other pieces. So yeah, now if you can find the most scared person in the room, and that's the best way to roll.
Make a friend. I think people also respond to vulnerability. If you can lead with your own vulnerability, and this is like, if you're in an event, this is also if you're on stage and you get up there and you go, gosh, I'm a little nervous to be talking to you guys today. Like, it's just disarming. It makes you feel better because you just said something honest and like admitted the thing that you're afraid of, which is like, hey, I feel it a little. So, and everyone's like, oh, relatable, hashtag relatable.
And we should start off this podcast. I am scared shitless for today's podcast. So therefore.
Oh, that would be a lie though. This is the most comfortable thing you're doing all day.
Maybe. Possibly. So one side question. Go back and check out that episode. That was, we have visuals and diagrams. No. But have you ever done oneness?
No.
Oh, you want super culty. Okay. So put this on your radar of things. So you'll like Vibravision. It's in the realm of that. So I'll give you the short backstory on this one. So this one comes from India. So when Tony got remarried,
he's talking about Tony Robbins, by the way. He's just
sorry, I have to use full names.
He's just name drop. Like when me and Tony were chilling this one time.
Let me tell you how significant I am. Sorry. Okay, Tony Robbins. So his wife, she struggled heavily with vertigo anytime she was at altitude. Big challenge. He's on a plane every 3 days. So big problem. So he went on this warpath because every time they'd get in a plane, she'd spend the whole time puking and it was just not good. So he tried to find solutions for her and he came upon this thing called oneness. And so they actually it's called the Oneness Academy. So again, culty, India, but it's more under the guise of like that zone of culty. So it's totally like
culty.
Yeah.
That was Indonesian culty, right?
It's vogue right now. Really cool experience. If you have an opportunity to check out their world as well, crazy breath work, like out of body experience, like traversing universes type stuff. Super cool. Long story short, this whole experience cured Tony's wife, Bonnie Pearl, cured her of all of her vertigo and all the stuff that was going on with her headspace. So.
Okay, we'll put it on the list. Well, before I put it on the list, I'm going to see what this one is like that you got me into. And then if I like it, then I'll say, okay, I can trust Brooke's cult recommendations and I will do one. You know what I did? This has been a few months ago. There's a guy who does this vitality thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? And he travels all around and it's breath work and it's like psychedelic breath work. And his whole shtick is he like gets a hotel ballroom. There's a couple hundred people in there. It's like, I don't know, $40 or whatever. Of course I'm an MBA, so I'm in there fucking doing the math. Like how much am I making every day? How much ballroom cost or whatever. But he's in there and you bring your blanket and your pillow and there's just enough room for everybody to lie down in a big ballroom. Right. And then he comes in and he does all the kind of safety stuff. But then he starts guiding you through these psychedelic breathing patterns. And I'm sure you've done psychedelic breathwork stuff before.
I've done them. I haven't heard of this gentleman though. I haven't heard of the.
It's like he's bringing it to the masses, right? It's like a pop version of it, and he sets it to music and everything else. I went in there and kind of told myself, look, I'm not going to push to a point where I feel uncomfortable or out of control. Like, I'm here to experience this and see what this is like. That was not one where I was like, I feel like, pushing myself to where I'm going to hyperventilate. Like, I did it enough to feel the psychedelic effects. And then I was like, okay, and if I want to breathe normal, like, I'm going to fucking breathe normal. Like, I'm allowed to have boundaries and take care of myself. For a lot of other people in there, it was like, I think you could tell like who has never done any trauma release work or anything like that, because just the simple act of doing some of this breathing was releasing, like howling screams and cries, and you're kind of holding space for, and one of the things he says up front is like, you're going to want to like touch people or comfort them or go hug them. Like, don't do that. You're interrupting their experience, like allow them to process. And so everyone's having this experience. I actually got like a different kind of release. It was like a very joyous, almost like laughing gas kind of experience, like where I was giggling and laughing and having a great time. And then there's somebody over here screaming and howling and mourning and it was fascinating shit. Definitely worth the $40 or whatever it cost if Vitality comes to your town. And he's like a traveling.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's so many breath workers that are local too for people to check out, but it's wild where we can go with breath, right? And I know Brad does a ton of stuff with breath work too, right? It's crazy. Have you done Wim Hof stuff?
I know a little bit, but like not gotten into it.
It's like it's just like a muscle, right? Like the more you dance in those spaces and you really start to build up that muscle and you see how much further and deeper you can go and just the things that our body can do. Yes, there's psychedelics that you can just pop a pill and you can get there lickety split, or you can down, some ayahuasca or whatever it might be. But shoot, we can access those places with breath, which is just freaking cool. So,
well, you said to shut down. So here's something Brad taught me about breath that is fascinating. This is like a tip that we can all use every day, is that when you are experiencing a traumatic event, like the natural thing is to hold your breath. And when you hold your breath, that is what kind of stores the trauma in your body. And so it's very important to breathe through. And so I've seen him working with somebody who was in like active trauma before, and he's going, breathe, and almost to the point of like annoying the person. But it's like, because if they'll start to, and if they do that, you could tell, okay, that's where that trauma is storing in. And, so just say, like if you guys have a point where you get triggered or something's very upsetting, just try to remember to breathe through it so that it keeps moving. But yeah, it's fascinating what we can do with all this stuff. You know what, Brooke, you've given me an idea.
Oh
yeah.
Did you just buy another domain on GoDaddy? I know your tricks.
Yeah, me too well. You're telling all my secrets to the whole world here, the whole 170 people that listen to this. No, what I was thinking is, instead of waiting for someone to sponsor us, we should just talk about stuff that we like a lot, and as if they're sponsoring us. And then maybe, down the line, they'll hear it and they'll sponsor us. So you know what I'm going to be bringing to
it's like reverse psychology of affiliate programs.
I'll be bringing my Bear Bells bars. Bear Bells bars are delicious protein bars that taste like candy bars.
Go to www.bearbars.com and use code Michelle to get 0% off.
That's right. to get a 404 page.
You too can pay full price for your Bear Bars.
I wonder if they do know who I am, because I buy so many of these at Wegmans, and shout out to Wegmans too. Wegmans, my favorite grocery store in the Washington D.C. area.
This is why we're going nowhere fast.
I like buy them out every time. Like I'll buy like a whole box of them, and I take it up to the checkout. They're like, you're supposed to buy, these one bars. You're supposed to come up here with 2 bars, not like the whole box.
You're the person that pisses them off because they have to count all of them to make sure you didn't sneak an extra 4 bars in the box.
No, it's sealed. It's a sealed box. But yeah, I'm going to buy these things like 20 at a time, or 30, however many are in a box. They eat this shit like literally.
Oy vey.
Is it going to work? Are they going to sponsor us?
I don't know. So we can check. Definitely can check. I mean, try.
If it works, then everyone else is going to copy this strategy. We'll be like, this is the whole world we're in. We found the strategy.
So, to that end, okay, so here's a cool piece because I think this is an interesting little tie-in. When you go to Vibravision, whoever is having the most fun and whoever is the most playful and out of the box person, do not practice with Brad while you're there because you two are just, I know you two, you'll be telling each other you're doing it wrong and then you'll be criticizing and then he'll be pissed. I don't know if you caught the point of who'd be doing the criticizing, but find the person who's most outside the box that you don't know so that you're not falling into old patterns. So just little words of wisdom.
Oh, bitch, now challenge accepted. I'm going to be the person that's most out of the box. I'm going to be having more fun than anyone there. And I will say, you don't know this about Brad and I's dynamic, but we actually have a fuckload of fun together. We get really silly together. We have fun no matter what we do together. I think that's one of the things early in our relationship where we were like, oh, this is something really significant because we have the best time just like going to the grocery store or whatever. We were cleaning the bathroom yesterday because we have company coming into town, and we were playing the Disco Biscuits in the bathroom, and like he was like scrubbing the toilet while I was wiping the sink. You know, we have a good time no matter what we're doing.
That sounds like code for some other different activity.
There was no. This is like we're in our 40s and we had to clean the bathroom because we have company coming over, and we don't have house cleaners because we're not bougie like that. So we do have yard people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not picking up my own leaves, but I am scrubbing my own toilets.
Oh, man, the leaves right now. Oh, there's so many leaves.
I bet Tony doesn't scrub his own toilets.
No. So here's a funny little parallel with that. So when I went to his house the first time, he's got like I don't even know what his staff load is, but come to find out, my dad's cousin. So I guess that's my second cousin, something like that.
Your dad's cousin is your first cousin once removed.
There you go. Super brain. So he is Tony Robbins' arborist, because you got to have an arborist, right?
Of course. You got to be an arborist.
Yeah. You gotta have an arborist.
When you said that, I just pictured like the royal gardens, like that they like at Versailles where they had
pretty close. So yeah, he bought a $30 million house and then did a $30 million remodel on it because it wasn't bougie enough. But the thing that was crazy, I didn't know that person was related to me. So I got home and I was talking to my aunt and she's like, oh, what were you doing last week? I'm like, oh, I was at Tony's house. We had our executive meeting, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, so-and-so is his arborist. And I'm like, who the hell is so-and-so? And yeah, that's weird parallels. Anyways, useless information.
Is there anyone else you want to just drop by first name that other people would?
So Barack. No, I'm just kidding.
So it's me and Barack we're hanging out.
You may not know what his last name is. No. But yeah, no, we could, but we won't.
It is a little bit like that in DC with politicians. There are a lot of, it's not to that level. It's like, I'm not friends with anyone like Tony Robbins that I could just be like me and Tony. But it's like a lot of minor celebrity people that you just know. Like so Brad got me super into Bill Maher. Like he watches Bill Maher every Friday night and has been for 20 years. And when I first started dating him, I was like, Bill Maher's kind of a dick. I don't know. And then I just started, it was like, that's what was on. So I started watching it. And I was like, okay, he's pretty fucking funny. And most of the time, I think he has a point, about a lot of shit. So I was like, now I'm into Bill Maher too. We actually just went and saw him last night. He came to DC and did maybe his last show ever. I don't know if they just say that to sell tickets or if that's true, but so we got to see him in person. He was property stage, by the way. He was kind of calling people out. Like somebody would yell out to him and he was like, you ruined that joke. It's about time here. It's like, haven't you been doing this real true? But anyway, sometimes there will be like people on Bill Maher that I know because just like DC people are always like on the. So it's like I know people like that, but I don't know Tony. Me and Tony aren't friends.
So full transparency. So since you had Uncle Mark on the show, Mark's actually the one that turned me on to Tony back forever ago.
Yeah, because didn't he work for him in like the 80s or something?
So he didn't work for him, but so Mark's the kind of person, I don't know if when he was on, did he have all the bookshelf behind him? His library consists of every single person you can think of in the personal development world. Mark owns their cassettes or their CDs or their DVDs or whatever. And so when he was training to go into the SEAL program, him and I were sharing a room. And that's when I first started hearing Tony. So I think I was 12-ish at the time, 11 or 12. So going back to being passionate about things. Oh, we're closing loops here. This is like unintentional NLP happening right before your very eyes.
You're not supposed to close them.
We're bringing loops in. We're closing loops.
You just keep them open for the intrigue.
But I want to collapse anchors and like I want to have fun. So Mark exposed me to Tony. Oh God, this is ADD on steroids. We used to talk about how cool would it be if one day we're at Tony's island and like we get to go see what he's created and blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward in time, Mark and I were there at Tony's resort with Tony. And we like looked at each other and we're like, holy shit, we manifested this stuff. Like, what the hell? Because Mark became the director of coaching for Tony. And then I became the director of, business solutions and a bunch of other shit. But yeah, it was just wild. So no, we didn't work for him way back before. It was down the line. But we put ourselves in the orbit. We worked with a number of other people in the coaching space and other trainers and multitudes of people that were on The Secret and like all these different people that I probably don't want to associate with now, but we'll leave it at that for a different episode.
Yeah, then when I get some of them probably got canceled or something.
Might have gone to jail, might have had some challenges and might have some other implicating things. But yeah, the world of personal development is very crazy. Be careful who you meet.
I had this experience when I told you this, like I started listening to Bob Proctor, like too late. I started listening to Bob Proctor and I was like, oh my God, whatever I need to do, like I'll go work for this guy. Like I want to, and then I found out he was dead and I was really sad.
Bob was what I will say, Bob was a really good dude. He was an integrity.
At Bob's house this one time. And
no, I wasn't at Bob's house, but I got to work with a lot of people around Bob. But yeah, Bob's Bob. See, first name, Bob. My dad's name is Bob. My stepdad's name is Bob.
Okay, there's a lot of trauma that we're getting into.
I know. So Bob's like universal.
It's just pulling on some shit for Brooke. So we got to back it out. Oi.
I think
it's good when we get random on the pod. Like, I think organic conversation is good. It's entertaining. I will admit this. I'm douchey enough to listen back to my own podcast. So I do listen. I do listen to this, and not just to get the downloads up, although it does, bring the downloads up by 10% every week when I download it myself. So
that's intelligent.
It's just a little
how did you get a sponsor? I listen to my podcast 5,000 times.
The best protein bars in the world. You should all eat them. The best episodes are ones where we just kind of go wherever and talk about whatever. And there's,
yeah, when we're intentionless.
Well, it's stilted sometimes when I'm. And this is not to insult any of my guests. This is me, like learning how to be an interviewer, but especially if I don't know somebody very well. And so I'm just kind of like asking them a question and waiting for the answer. And it's like,
how are you today?
Yeah, we don't have that like flow back and forth that you and I get.
People are going to hear this and they're going to be like, what is wrong with these people?
No, but that's okay. That's what we want. That's what we want. Give the people what they want. We're crazy. We do coffee colonics. And by we, I mean him.
Michelle's my administrator. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to float that.
I've never been involved in that.
We're close. Very close.
My only enema experiences were post childbirth, and moms out there know what I'm talking about. Hashtag relatable.
So is mine supposed to be hashtag not relatable?
You are the least related. You talk about Tony and Bob in.
The thing that's cool, if you met, well, I don't know Bob personally, but if you met Tony, like he is the littlest kid in the room in terms of like, you'd think he's just like this above it all superior. Nope. So the opposite. He's like a little freaking teenager.
Well, I look forward to you facilitating that meeting for me one day.
We'll talk about when I almost died in his back. Did I tell you that story? When I almost got killed?
Oh no. Tell us that story and then we got to go.
All right. So we ran an event in Florida. We had this 2-day gap between the event and then we were doing our executive meetings at Tony's house. And we were staying at a hotel that we didn't realize it at the time, but we were apparently just a couple doors away from where Tony lives. So my business partner and I, we're like, hey, let's go for a walk. This was in the 2-day gap between the event, executive meeting. We're like, let's go walk on the beach. Now it sounds like a romantic interlude. That's not where I'm going with it. We go for this long walk on the beach and we start to look at the seawall and we're like, oh my God, that's Tony's house. Like the seawall to his backyard because he lives right on the ocean. And so we basically climbed into Tony's backyard off of the sand seawall. As soon as we got our asses up into his backyard, we turned around and we had security guards with guns on us.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Tony was in the backyard doing a bunch of body work and doing his workout routines, and security freaked the F out. They came and freaked on us. Well, Tony comes running over, as the small statured man that he is. And he realizes that it's his brother-in-law, who was my business partner, and myself, and called off the guards. And we got to go have a whole day of canceling Tony's calendar and got to go play in Tony's house and do all kinds of fun shit. But yeah, that was when I almost died breaking into Tony's backyard.
That's a great story. And, just shows what a big swinging dick you are that you could climb over Tony's wall. And
if I was by myself, I probably would have been shot. Thank God I had Tony's brother-in-law with me.
Save the brother-in-law, not that fucking guy.
Yeah. Who's the bald white-headed guy?
Who's the bald one?
That is a very large 12-year-old. Get him out of here.
Brooke, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Third time. We'll have you back a fourth time with Vibravision, and we will break it all down. And I will either be really happy with you or really mad at you. Like, we're going to figure out how this is going to go.
Don't you put that on me. So here's the flip. You're going to get out of it what you put in.
Oh, God damn it. Are you going back to personal responsibility on me?
Yep. That's how we close out.
I'm going to have an amazing time because I am the creatrix of my own experience.
And you too can break your printer.
Bye.